Hello, chickens. No jokes today, although I did just call you chickens, so we'll see how we go. Nice, easy topic, one that you'll probably be familiar with today. It is the purposes of sanctions. Okay, so you need to know the reasons behind why we give a certain sanctions. And there are 5 reasons that you need to know. You need to know them as a definition. You also need to know them in relation to analysing a particular sanction. So, what is the reason behind the sanctions given? A reminder that a sanction is a punishment. Okay, so you're found guilty and you will get a punishment after you're found guilty, or you'll be awarded a sanction. Okay, so here is the study design dot point. The purposes of sanctions, and we can see the 5 there: rehabilitation, punishment, deterrence, denunciation, and protection. Okay, the skill you need to do here is you normally need to combine this dot point with the dot point below and analyze whether or not these sanctions given do meet the purposes or do achieve the purposes of the sanctions. Okay, so there's 5 different ones. We'll start with the nice easy one, rehabilitation. In an ideal world, we want rehabilitation to occur. Basically, the idea behind rehabilitation is to address any underlying reasons behind the offending and trying to treat those reasons. So, for example, does the offender have mental illness? Does the offender come from a low socioeconomic background? Do they have some sort of drinking or drug problem? Okay, so when we're rehabilitating someone, we're trying to address the underlying causes or the underlying reasons for why they might have committed a crime. So we're trying to address the why of the crime and hopefully stop them from recommitting it. Unfortunately, rehabilitation doesn't always work, and recidivism rates, so the idea of going back into court is or going back to prison is pretty common. Okay, the next one is punishment. Okay, the idea behind punishment is to ensure that the community has the opportunities to actually seek out some revenge against the offender. We don't want individuals seeking revenge. So the reason that we offer a punishment is to prevent that and also make the victims feel satisfied that they received a good outcome. Okay? So we don't want, or the reason we ensure that a punishment is harsh is to avoid those victims seeking some sort of revenge. The next one is deterrence. Obviously, we want to discourage people from committing crimes, and often we will choose particular sanctions that kind of encourage deterrence in the first place. There are 2 types of deterrence that you do need to know. Okay, so it's important that you know these 2 terms here. The first one is general deterrence. Okay, so it aims at deterring the community from similar offences. Okay, so we're trying to deter the whole community. Okay, we don't want everyone jaywalking, for example. So we try to deter it by having a fine. We don't want everyone fare evading. So we try to deter them from doing it. Okay, fare evading. The other type is specific deterrence. This relates to the offender in question, so the person who's actually done it. We're trying to deter the offender from re-offending, so redoing a crime that they've already committed. Okay, so redoing it again. So specific deterrence focuses on the offender that's already done the crime and trying to discourage them, whereas general focuses on the overall community. Okay, we want to stop everyone jaywalking or fare evading. The next one is denounce. Okay, a lot of people get confused about denunciation, but it's essentially showing the court's disapproval of the offender's actions. So it's about showing disapproval from the court's approval, and also commenting on the idea that this type of behaviour will not be tolerated. Okay, this type of behaviour will not be tolerated within our community, and the court will denounce this behaviour. The last way is protection. Okay, so the other aim that we look at is the idea of protecting the community. Okay, So we want to aim to ensure that people aren't doing these type of crimes and that people feel safe within their community. Normally, protection relates to imprisonment because we're actually removing an individual from the community. We're putting walls around them so they can't actually commit the crime. There's also a level of non-custodial sentences, the idea of CCOs, which we'll find out more about in the next video, in order to restrict the offender's movements, perhaps in the community. So protecting the community, preventing the offender from potentially harming another person. Okay, so this is a nice simple one in terms of what you need to know. You need to know the definitions, but normally you need to relate it as a discussed question, and you need to relate it to a type of sanction. So often you'll need to talk about whether or not this sanction, so such as imprisonment, actually does achieve those. So you might say, for example, that imprisonment might achieve protection because it removes someone from the community. And alternatively, you might say it doesn't achieve rehabilitation because recidivism rates are quite high. So it doesn't achieve rehab. Okay, because a lot of people still end up back in jail. I think that's all about it in terms of it. The other thing you might want to know is all of these ideas behind sentencing come from what is known as the Sentencing Act, which you'll find out more about when we learn about types of sentencing. But the Sentencing Act 1991 is a good thing to have in your notes. Okay. Alrighty. Catch you later, chickens. Okay, that was awkward.